Whoa. Hello, everyone. Uh, Dan's getting the boxing on right as we're starting. Um, okay, so hopefully, if you're watching this, hi. If you were watching this last week, this possibly looks a little strange, or possibly was a little strange. You can probably hear Dan now.
Oh, yay! Hear me.
According to what all my dashboard says, they can hear you now.
Yay! Success.
So, folks, welcome to post training. Dan, what is post training?
Post training is after training.
Why is that important?
Oh gosh, my gosh. So, for me, when I during training is one thing. During training, you're in the middle of learning, sweating, all this jazz. You don't have a whole lot of time to contemplate on what you're doing. Post training is a good time to contemplate on what you did.
Now,
try to remember.
What things do you feel the experience of post training? Because post training is as much a part of the training process, as much a part of learning and all that, as anything else. I feel as any part of learning a form, doing a technique, going through a calisthenics, right? You reflecting on that and coming right off of that's like really super important. So that's going to be the focus of this show. I don't know if we want to call it a show or a podcast or a who's a what's it's. Everyone likes their. We were just talking about branding a second ago. I don't know what.
It's a show.
It's a show.
It's a show.
We don't need to walk you through what this is. You know what this is.
No.
We don't need to hold your hand. We're going to talk about what because we did that last week and you only heard one half of it. So
right.
We'll talk about, I guess, what happened this week with training with both of us and possibly other things that come of interest, like woodworking or covered bridges. Dan's gonna pull me down a little more as I'm kind of more in the podcasting ring, and so I'll veer off. So he'll pull me back because I'll be looking too much at heavenly glory.
My gosh.
This week in training,
no, I don't think that's gonna happen.
That we need a third host.
I'm tangents are my favorite thing in the world.
So Dan, can you talk about
but one thing,
what are you wearing, by the way?
This is a Samway. This is like the Japanese work clothing. This is what I wear. This is my habit. I use it. I wear it when I do calligraphy. I wear it when I teach sometimes. I have a few.
This is my native Philadelphian garb. It's called a gray hoodie. In the movie Rocky, you know exactly why.
Nice.
I'm also wearing sweatpants because I don't believe
you're a bum.
No,
you're a bum rock.
No, the sweatpants aren't giving up. They're doing your best. I don't believe in what anybody says about sweatpants. I've got a pair right now, and I intend to acquire more. Please email in to give me some advice on where I can buy said sweatpants. So
all the emails, don't wear sweatpants.
Ready for that. Ready for all the Twitter mentions. One thing we're going to focus on today is talking about how our weeks were in training, what we learned, what we took away from it, and all that fun jazz. So, Dan, can you talk to us about your week in training? Because it was probably a lot more eventful than mine.
Well, so my week was similar to last week. I'm still focusing on Pasai Sol, but this week, oddly enough, from last week, I decided to really focus more on not journaling, but writing down notes like immediately at the end of the day. So classes are done. I go, I change, I go out and I sit in my little waiting area over here, and I turn the lights off, except for I have one little light over there. I turn the light off and I sit for like, 15 minutes or whatever. And I have my reflection for the day. But this week I decided to take notes. And sometimes I'll take notes per class, right? So sometimes I take a note, like if I know a student really needs something, right? So I'll make a note on their file, right? That they need to work on something so that I can address it. But this week
the CIA dojo? You've got a file on all your students?
Yes, I have files on all of my students. I know where they live. And
might not be something you want to say on air, but
every martial arts school owner knows where their students live. They give us their addresses.
That's why you succeed where I failed. I didn't do that.
Well, they have to sign a waiver, right? So
that's why you succeeded where I failed. I didn't do that.
But what I decided to do this week was more general. How I feel, whether or not I'm tired. Was it? I went into things like, was it loud? Did the gong ring a lot? Right. So I have a gong back there, and we will. I'll make the students scream loud enough so it rings the gong. Right. That's the goal. Right.
What training is that?
And
So you're screaming loud. You mean like a key eye?
Like key eye. Yeah. So if you scream incorrectly, if you key eye incorrectly, it won't ring the gong.
So your focus is on sound travel then, and on like projecting that sound. Okay.
Yeah. Because sometimes people are just kind of like, huh, and it's like, that didn't do anything, right? But sometimes I'll have them stand over in this corner, and then I'll have them key up and then see if it rings the gong. I got this idea from one of my friends up in Connecticut, and he has actually a little bell in the corner, and you have to ring the bell. I thought that was awesome, but I just have a gong. So.
You don't just go. He had a bell. He has a little bell, and all I have is a gong.
What?
You literally got a gong for this little bell.
But it's easier to ring the gong than it is to ring the bell. True. I want them to have, yeah. But I got that idea from him. So Sid, if you're watching, you're awesome. Shout out to Sid. Today is his birthday.
Really?
And he's awesome. Yeah.
Okay.
And so anyway, so we, I went into like, taking notes about, how everybody's focus was. Was it a slow week? What the weather was like, and this week was more introspective than last week. We'll put it that way.
Okay. How do you feel that? Do you feel like an introspective week versus kind of a more intense week? Where do you think the difference lies for you in terms of your own personal training, and then how that like resonates back into your teaching?
So I really enjoyed this week. Really enjoyed the introspectiveness, and I'm a contemplative person, just in general. But it made me kind of stop and smell the roses a little bit more, right? So I know like next week I have already much more of a plan for what I want to, actually tomorrow, right? I've got classes tomorrow. So I've already got more of a plan of what I want to do tomorrow than I did last week. Because last week was, let's go. And I had, I was just starting group classes again, and a lot of energy and whatever, but I was just kind of along for the ride, where this week was, I was along for the ride, but I was paying much more attention. And I'm happy about this week. I think it was very good. I don't think I'll do it every week, but it was very, very beneficial.
Do you feel that like kept you from being a little more physically intense or more physically, I guess, hands on or whatever? Like for example, like being more contemplative. Does that mean? I'm not telling you as a person as more as this week. Does that mean that you're going to pull back on like 100 push-ups or pull back on doing a
No,
squat
not at
100
all.
times? So
No, not at all.
okay,
Yeah, yeah.
so what do
It
you
doesn't matter what you're doing as long as you're paying attention to what you're doing. You're being mindful of what you're doing. You could do something incredibly intense, but be paying attention to it. Be more mindful.
and that I feel that statement in a hard way because a couple weeks ago I had done like a very intense exercise. I like ran for a long time, like 21 kilometers. And everyone would be like, "Wow, you did that." I was like, "Yeah." Like it was the weirdest feeling because I remember the first time I did it, just having this like weird traumatic memory. I couldn't stand up for like an hour, and yeah, they basically my muscles had all seized and my legs had all seized up. I couldn't stand. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, you do dumb things when you're young, but now it's like, yeah, I did it. I'm gonna take a nap, wake up, eat lunch, da 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 da.
Right.
And I feel that's your statement in that way because, like, especially since I've kind of changed houses and changed my location, getting back into that place, dialing back in to that the ability to do that, almost feels lost because it was place related, not
Yeah.
it's not skill related, and so
Huh.
and that's where I feel like your attention seeking there with that statement it's really helpful, and I think most of us have that experience.
Right.
For me, this week has just been like if the same feeling I had when I was running this couple weeks ago. It's like getting through mud because
Hmm.
I'm readjusting my schedule from new location, kind of new rhythm of life, and how much of a barrier that is to just tapping back into training. Um,
Yeah.
even when you have a dedicated space for it, this is great. Like this is a great place about my new place. I have a dedicated place for training. Um, and just because you have that doesn't necessarily mean you can tap into that. So
Right. Right.
didn't mean to
No, it's very true.
diverge
It's
there.
very true. Like, I mean, I have my own school. Um, if I didn't have to be here, would I be here?
Mm,
Not as much because I have other things I could do. I have a family, I have a wife, I've got kids, I've got chickens, dogs. I mean, I have stuff I could do at home. I could train at home, maybe, but there's something to be said for uh, a schedule to keep you accountable and people to keep you accountable. And I think that's what makes a school really beneficial is the people, right? Um, the community, because it's hard to train yourself because it's like getting through mud.
I mean, that's how I like. I hate to use that as like that's just the evocative image I have in my head, right?
Yeah, but I feel you 100%.
Yeah. Um,
I do.
yeah, because it's like especially if you've like done martial arts long enough, you do form A, form B, form C, or you've done sparring, however much
Mhm.
energy you have into a certain age with any given thing. But the regularity, kind of, we talked about this last time um, on episode 0 that no one will ever see. So we're talking about we're referencing something that no one can watch. I would love to think that somebody somewhere on the dark web like recorded it, and that'll be like us fighting to get that recording of your sound. Um,
that
yeah, but
would be fascinating.
I mean, it's getting that regularity is really important. So when I came
Yeah.
home to this week, like every day was weirdly exhausting. Um,
Hmm.
just like where I live is a little out of the way from places, so it's like a good example is like I didn't have a screwdriver. I wanted to screw drive something in, and as like try as I might have, there was nowhere around that was like in the immediate vicinity where I could buy a screwdriver.
Jeez.
So it was like, use a knife. And
Yeah.
all right, it's good enough. Put it up. All right, we're good. And then the next day, actually go out to get said thing and then other things. But it's like that kind of weird, that kind of like small little thing kind of trips you up in terms of just
Yeah.
trying to start off. But
Yeah.
then you kind of like realize you don't have that time for training. But I got to do laundry, got to cook dinner, got to get this ready, got to prepare for tomorrow, got to prepare X, Y, Z.
Right.
So like what I was finding was I was doing kind of mock training. Like this week for me was very much mock training than anything else because it was like laundry training. That scene from I think Batman Forever.
Oh yeah, when Robin is spinning the.
What was it? Chris O'Donnell got too much crap for that. Just you're in the kitchen.
I like that film. I'm going to go on record and say I liked that film.
You're on. Not only.
I don't care. I don't care what anybody says.
You're
Yeah,
on record. You're also live and in color. Just remember that. This can come back to haunt you.
Whatever. I don't care.
This is not technically this is on Twitter because I did put a link to this on Twitter. So
there you go.
But yeah, the what is it in the kitchen? You got a spatula or you got a knife or you got cutlery of some sort. I've got like some Filipino arnis training, so just kind of it's weird. It's the one part of my training that I tend to never talk about, but at the same time, like I'll throw out every once in a while, but I'll never really work on. But every time I get like a utensil in my hand, it just those drills and stuff just flip right back on. Then I'll spend.
They're so basic and universal, and they're easy and they're natural, and 100%. I love it. Yeah,
100%. But then it's like I spent like the chicken's burning. I was just like doing Sinawali for 5 minutes in the air and doing tappy for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
If I could just remember what that drill actually was. So like just like kind of stuff like that was what my training week was. I hate to even say that, admit that, and even do our supposedly inaugural episode in that regard, but it's just kind of what happened. So I guess.
Yeah. But good martial is, I always say that martial movement is human movement. I watch videos of people do crazy applications of things. It's like it's just people. How should I say this? I think human beings in general falsely equate complicated things with advanced, or they see something that's complicated or complex and they think that it is better. And I disagree with that. I think simple is better. And like I had a discussion the other day.
There's a mile of poop there's miles and miles of poop I've had to eat on because I'm gonna try to keep this as PG-13 as possible. All right. Miles and miles of poop I've had to eat over this concept over the years. Miles and miles and miles of it. I'm sure you had.
Yeah, but my point is, you're doing work. You're moving your body in some way, and you're either moving it in a martial way or you're not. And I ask people all the time, do you pay attention when you open a door? When you open the door to your car, when you open the door to your house or your apartment, wherever you live, do you pay attention to how you're opening it? Do you have are you transferring weight correctly? Are you using your whole body to open the door, or are you just using your arm? Because if you were to do an arm drag on somebody, you're not just going to use your arm, you're going to use your whole body. And if you do that, it's going to be easier. So like there's a crossover, and this is where I think like real martial arts happens, is where everything that you do is with martial movement, or efficient movement, or efficient biomechanics, whatever you want to call it, right? But that's where real training kind of happens, and it's all the time, and it never stops. It doesn't matter what you're doing.
Yeah, I would largely agree with that. I don't. What I always get, we talked about this on the podcast, I think a couple of weeks back, where it was like people like doing horse stance in the grocery store in line or whatever, or like they're like walking and stuff. I've heard it, like I've seen, like, I don't know, I've seen people do that type of stuff, and
Uh-huh.
it's kind of
Uh-huh.
like but more to your point, it's more like, no, the body mechanics of what you're learning and what you're doing is just kind of is going to articulate itself in how you go about your daily life. And I
Yeah.
think that's also where people tend to fall off, is where
Uh,
they don't connect that, and they can't connect that for whatever reason,
right.
or they don't
Right.
see that, and then so you end up. I think it shows up in training where their body won't kind of adopt or take adaptation to whatever you're teaching or whatever they're
Sure.
learning. So the movement literally becomes unnatural.
Yeah, there's a disconnect. In Korean we say 정신 통일, which means concentration. But the literal translation of the Chinese characters is a unity, a union of mind and spirit. So it's like this idea that your mind is fully focused and the union is on this one thing. So you're concentrating. But in reality, it's like the mind body connection, right? So you can say, I can tell you what to do. I can tell a student what to do. I can even demonstrate it for them. That does not mean even though they understand it, that doesn't mean that their body can do it, right? So the gap between the mind and the body slowly should do this. It may never get there, right? But that's the goal. The goal of training is to do this, right?
It's always going to be the idea to the specific body, right? So you're never going to, everyone's going to end up kind of articulating it differently.
Right, absolutely.
The constant fight I have with people about Nahachi of going, is it this way or is it this way? And the constant fight, I'm just like, this way.
Yeah, it's that way.
Is the hand back here or is the hand?
It's there.
Oh my god!
It's there. Yeah.
The idea is ultimately going to fall into wherever feels most comfortable.
Right.
With that body.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Right. Oh, 100%. And I'll go even further and say that a lot of people will say, well, this one technique has 5 million applications. I look at it opposite. Whenever I cross train in different styles, I see there's this thing that works. And I notice many different ways people practice it, different forms and different styles. Right. So like I shared yesterday a video of an application where you're in clinch and you arm drag and you get behind them and you grab the far shoulder and you reach down to try to pick up their front foot and drop them, and they get heavy. So you kick their knee out. It's very simple, very basic and simple. But that is the application that application is taught within Tai Chi Chuan with snake creeps down, or what you could also say single whip squats down into rooster standing on one leg. Right? Or it's also taught in Wanshu, at least in our version of Wanshu. So like everybody's gonna have to watch me do this, right?
Well, I'm actually what I'm gonna try to do is go ahead. Sorry.
You good? So in Tai Chi Chuan you have this movement, right? And then you come boom, and you pick the knee up. So you grab the shoulder, you come down, you try to lift the knee, it doesn't work, so then you go you take the knee up. Simple and basic and simple. And then in Wangshu, you have this movement where you go 1, 2, and then you go like this, right? It's the same, arm drag, grab the shoulder, knee the foot out, right? I mean, like, so there's an application, there's something that works. There's a way to make the body do something. There's a way to make the opponent fall down. And then you train it different ways and people slow it down and put it into forms in different ways.
And maybe I can do this in a post training first. Badoom. See how that actually does that actually work? I don't know if that actually is going to work.
I don't know. I see your screen.
Yes, because that's how Zoom works, Dan. But I have no idea if this is on OBS or not. So people, you can see it there. I'm gonna stop sharing that. Possibly may have leaked personal information. Yeah. Ding. Because I was trying to be like that video that you posted. Let me put it right here, and I don't have the technical skill for
that. That'd be cool though. We'll get there.
We'll get there. Yeah.
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get a producer and a sound guy and a makeup artist. In two countries. Why not?
100%.
But until then, no. Because that's finding the similarities.
I think that.
Ooh, go ahead. Rock, paper.
I was just going to say that, the idea of martial movement being special, being like mystical and mysterious and something that you can only do over here, I think devalues the martial arts.
Well, yeah, because going back to kind of like you had a more contemplative week. I had a more of a too bad week, if I can put it more in a PG-13 way. I want to try to figure out a plug to people to be like, do post training after dark or something. It's only for the adults, kids. Sorry, I can't watch this one. Where it was like, you're not gonna get it done. Your body's telling you you're not gonna get it done. Your mind's telling you you're not gonna get it done. Kind of the course of the day is gonna tell you you're not gonna get it done.
Yeah.
You always feel like gosh darn it, I can't get it done today. But your body's, if you, to your point, if you're actually moving in the way that you're training, then you're gonna get it done regardless. You just have to kind of put your mind into that point. I live in a place where there's poisonous animals sometimes, so I'm always like,
yes,
be aware.
Yes, awareness of your environment. Love it.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what we need. More dangerous hazards for people in order for them to train martial arts.
Isn't that what you've been training for your whole life? Ninja warrior obstacles everywhere. You have to get through an obstacle course to get to work.
I want
like
to go to work.
This.
Okay, I want to deal with that. I don't care. I don't want to deal with that. Yeah, I'll go to training and like deal with some like jerk at a bar at some point maybe, but like otherwise, I just want to go to work, do my job, teach children's English. So I think one question that would be really good to kind of cap us off was, what do you think you learned from this week, and what do you think you're going to bring into next week?
The biggest thing that I think I learned this week was, I don't want to say patience, but some of the classes went by too fast. And I think it was because I was trying to get too much done. And so I found myself, at the end of the class going, I wanted to do more. So one thing I'm going to do next week is I'm going to do more of less. And I've had this realization before. This is nothing new, but it was something that I forgot this week and I was reminded of. So that is my biggest takeaway from this week.
Okay. Yeah, I feel you there. I remember the first time, long time ago, one of my first martial arts schools was, I was like, I really wanted to teach. And for whatever reason, they kind of let me have the reins for like, you can have 10 minutes. And everything I wanted to do was taking, like, we got to like 20 minutes or like 30 minutes or whatever. They were like, see, you couldn't do everything in the time that we gave you, and that wasn't a mean lesson. It wasn't done in any mean way,
Right.
but it was definitely like it definitely showed me. It's like, okay, this is what I can accomplish in this time. This is what I can accomplish in this time. And in
Yeah.
the time that you have, you can't do everything. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I always look back on those days as just kind of like, yeah, everything was wrong, but it was also completely right. Like everything, like all the technically, I don't feel like anything that happened in those days was in any way good, but it was the
Mm.
experience of the thing that itself that led me to where I am, or led me to a better understanding
Oh.
of where I am today. Physically, I don't think it got me to where I want to be, but that's different.
Hmm. That is different. Yeah. But that's a good point, too, because we don't ever, downplay your experiences, even if they were bad. Um, yeah, 100%. I have people that will come to me and be like, I can't believe I wasted all my time doing this with so and so. You didn't waste any time. Shush your mouth. Relax.
Well, yeah, and I mean that might be a different conversation for later, but it's
That's a good conversation,
yeah, because it's just
but it's
you never the amount of time somebody spends on doing whatever is never a complete like not unless you never go even if you never go back and use it like
yeah,
we're doing something. Um,
right.
this is what something I always think as a teacher is like what am I giving them?
Yeah,
What is the
yeah,
thing that I'm giving them that'll like will that practice matter? Will that actually matter to them? Am I leading them in the
right.
wrong direction, or am I putting them on a direction that yeah? Am I giving them a
Yeah,
nice diversion even like
sure, sure.
so that'll help
Yeah,
them?
and everybody has different goals.
Yeah.
So, I like to say that there's five different kinds of martial arts. I classify five. There's sport martial arts, which, judo, kendo, fencing, taekwondo. There's lots of, sport karate. It's where you're focused mostly on competition. You have fitness martial arts, fitness kickboxing, 9 rounds gyms. You only really care about getting in shape, right? You have classical martial arts, which you care about lineage and you care about the history and preserving a culture and all that jazz. Um, and you have tactical martial arts where you don't care about history or anything, you just care about does it work. And then there's LARPing, which is where you're just live action role playing and you care about the titles and the pomp and circumstance and all that jazz. But
I have
and there's
never heard of somebody putting that in that category. Spot on.
right, and there's crossover, right? So there's some classical stuff in sport, and there's some sport in tactical, and there's there's it's not set in stone. But my point is it doesn't matter what type of person you are or what your goal is. There's a martial art for you, and I think that's a beautiful thing. Um, and I don't think that it should be downplayed. I think that you just have to be honest and know what you want, know what know what your goals are, and find a school that does that, and be happy. And you know,
From week to like find the school that's right for you.
yeah. I mean, I'm I'm one of those school owners who I make sure like somebody comes to me and says I'm interested in this, and then I go, perfect. There's a school right down there that is fantastic at it. I'm not. So, I don't have an issue at all with directing people to another school because I'm not going to lie and tell you I'm going to teach you something that I'm not going to.
Where
They might. They might.
it might not be it might not be think that they want A, but really they want B, or they think that A is going to be good for them, and it's really not. So I definitely I feel my approach has always been not always, but I mean now would be you want to kind of do a little bit of everything. I mean not the LARPing, but the definitely like You're talking to the guy who's kind of like stood on not wearing obi. Um,
Uh-huh.
but beyond that, like it should all flow together naturally, in my opinion.
Good martial is universal, man.
Exactly. So, but
Hmm.
whether or not that's kind of my goal, my takeaway from this week is just like you gotta let it kind of flow out naturally. You can't. Yeah, you put an expectation on the table. You
Yeah.
feel bad when it's still on the table. You go to the
Yeah.
table, you're gonna get something done. Like I hate
Hmm.
metaphors because they don't really tell you anything. But like in this regard, like you got to actually get like walk into the place and you will feel better. You there for five
Right.
minutes, you're there for 2 hours. You'll feel
Right.
better. And if
Right.
anything, especially in these days, it's about getting to that point where maybe
Hmm.
your martial art's going to be wherever it's going to be, but at least you're doing it. At least you're
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
kind of getting away from more the internal stuff. Or
Um, well, so I mean, I can't really get away from internal because it's a part of the art. So, uh, but the drills that I'm going to put together for the majority of my classes are going to be much simpler and will take less time or take more time. Yes, that's it. Yeah, and then I plan on giving students more time at the end to to roll with it and spar with them. So yeah, that's my plan next week. Less learning, more doing, more trying. Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah.
depends. So next week's Golden Week or the start of Golden Week. It's kind of a weirdly broken up holiday because you have the Showa next Thursday's Showa Day, and then
Hmm.
the day after is a isn't a holiday, but then the next 3 days after are a holiday. So we have that
Okay.
weekend and then 3 days after our holiday. It's called
Okay.
Golden Week. Um,
Cool.
so everyone tends to take that like in between day off. Uh, 2 years ago, when they inaugurated a new emperor, they said everyone take the whole week off. I'm like, what? Just do this every time. Uh, all right, whatever.
Sure.
The actual days of the week are important. And, you know, it articulates itself in whatever it is. But I think, especially since vaccinations are going to start ramping up here sooner than later, thankfully, start
Cool.
reaching out to the community a little more and kind of see what the martial arts community is here. So
Cool. That's exciting.
I hope, I hope, I hope. I've every time I ride into a town that kind of gets some supplies, there's a martial arts school there, and I've always seen this like group of I want to say I don't know like they're I don't want to say they're kids, but I don't want to say they're adults. So I want to say like possibly high school age, possibly like more in the young adults age, but they're always doing like hill running.
Nice.
So I'm just like, are you guys doing that for karate or not? Yeah, I would be interested to see what's going on there. So
Yeah, that's cool.
cool, cool. Anything you want to say and kind of a closing?
Hmm. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I think to wrap everything up,
Mm.
have balance in life. We'll go with that.
All right. The only time,
Sure. Why not?
the only good time is here, and the only good time is now.
Well, so my point is we get frustrated when things don't happen the way that we think they should,
Yes,
but that's not,
that's life.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So just, don't get attached to your feelings and be mindful of the way that things go, and then you'll be fine.